Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, you've you've got Cindy and her fly eyes back. Give me 1 second. I just had my old pair of glasses on. See, fly eyes. I recognized it right away. Here we go. Much better. Makes me happy to have my new glasses, but I want to keep them nice for as long as I can. And if it's not necessary for me to be wearing them, right? And basically, I needed that good reflective coating because I do work online. It protects my eyes from the blue light going on from the computers because I'm on the computers pretty much all day long. And on top of that, when I go live during my lives, it's important for me that you guys are connecting with me. And that means also connecting with the eyes, right? Connecting with the eyes. And you couldn't do it look at even with this, right? Oh my goodness. If I got lost out in the forest, I could pull this out of my backpack and flag down an airplane or something and let them know where I am. Yeah, they were pretty awful. I spent more money on this pair when I expected because of the place that I went to that they would be less expensive. I happened onto a sale when I purchased these ones that probably made a little bit of a difference, took $400 off my bill. But I don't know. I can't understand why these ones did not work. The quality of them was really, really bad. And I will never. It's like, with my Keen shoes. You guys know I talk about Keen all the time, right? Because they're such good shoes. They are such good footwear, especially for seniors and people who do suffer a little bit with, I don't know, maybe swelling feet because Keen's brand is known for their foot space or toe space, so there's a lot of room inside the shoes. So even if I wore my size, that they would be my size and they would fit very comfortably. But inside my shoes, my toes are not crunched up. I'm not getting, calluses on the sides of my feet. I can walk around in them, and you guys know how much I walk. I haven't been doing any walking except once to the corner store in a week now. And I thought maybe I would give myself one more week of light duty. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do the walks. There's nothing wrong with my legs, wrong with my feet. I just overloaded my backpacks and my walks were super long. And I did them every single day before, right? I knocked myself out. In a week, I walk like 6 to 8 miles every single day. And I have to remember, I'm not 20 anymore, but so grateful. Last night was my first full night of sleeping. I went to bed at 11 o'clock and I didn't get up till 7 o'clock in the morning when my alarm went off. And I felt so good. No aches or pains, no discomfort in any way. And it's been pretty much that way all day. Now, I still feel a little bit in my hands, and because I'm doing little house chores and little projects around my apartment, I'm trying to keep, how do you call it, fluid in my movement, so that I don't stiffen up and stuff. But I do notice, even in making a cup of coffee, that I'm holding my cups with both hands. I'm not, right, it's an empty cup now, but I'm not holding my cup with one hand. And if I find that the glass containers, and I'm avoiding the glass containers for as much as I can, or the ceramic, coffee mugs because there is quite a bit of weight to those. So I've been using these ones here. They're plastic, there's no weight to them, and I'm not overextending myself. So I'm feeling pretty good. And when I said I gave it some thought today about that light duty for another week, and I really think it's a good idea. This is a week when all the riffraff is out and about because there are no people highly sensitive, those people that are working in emotions, that are looking for insights and missions and directions in their life, that it's just like a scoop, like a greedy grabber. If you don't know what a greedy grabber is, it's a lobster fisherman when they go out because they only get short seasons, only a couple of weeks, and in those couple of weeks they'll work 24/7 that entire time, and they'll scoop up as much of the lobsters as they possibly can because they know they won't be able to get another opportunity, right? So they call them greedy grabbers. And I use that terminology quite often because it is relevant, and you don't want to be out and about and be the target because we are soft hearts. We are sensitives. And because we are looking for direction, we are looking to be inspired, that should actually come from ourselves in that companionship with ourselves, right? Hello, Tammy. Hello, dear. Um, yeah, so I don't want to be out there being in a sensitive state, feeling pretty good, loving spring, and the snow is melting really, really fast, and I suspect it's only going to be a few more days and it's all going to be gone. And I'm going to want to be out there. Now, this Saturday coming up is going to be plus 14, they say. Right? That's like 6 degrees short of room temperature. And they never get the weather right in their predictions, right? So it might even be warmer than that. But there's a good possibility it could be snowing too. It could be snowing too. But if it is nice that day, that will be a day for me to be out and about. And if the snow is completely gone, it has to be completely gone. I don't want to be skidding on ice in any way. I am going to take my bike out for its first run. So I'm pretty excited about that. So you can see that I'm making plans with myself, right? And it's just not plans in my, what do you call that when you go for physiotherapy? It's not just for my physiotherapy, but it's for my emotional and mental therapy too, because I do get a little bit of house cooped. I am not naturally somebody who allows themselves to be cooped up in the indoors, but I have been cooped up in here. And in my lessons, oh my goodness, it was just incredible the stuff that was coming across my path today. Things that I had never ever considered before. And then there were also things that I knew true to be for myself, like I knew it already, but that stuff wasn't coming across my path. That was information and topics and articles and insights that I had never seen anybody else put out there. And I was mesmerized in that. And it kind of gave me permission myself to go a little bit deeper, kind of feeling like I have company now. That's the kind of idea that I had. And not only that, I got introduced to a couple of new creators this week. If you guys don't know, well, if you guys have been hanging out with me for any length of time, you guys know that I go through my subscriptions once a year and I unsubscribe, right? And it's not with intent to be disrespectful. In the moment it served me, in the moment it caught my attention, in the moment I was inspired by the message. But if I'm not going back to it, right? If I'm not going back to the creators or the thought leadership out there, right? That it's time for them to be released from my subscriptions. It benefits myself not to be suggested. They're not being suggested to me anyway, because if they were suggested to me, I would most likely be going in to at least give it a look-see, a hear-see, right? Just to say, well, why did this come by my path? Every single morning, I have my first 4 videos that are suggested to me. I choose one of them right off the hop. I choose one of them to delve into, knowing they came across my path for a reason. Now, I usually look at the first 5 videos because one of those videos is going to be a sponsored video. It's going to be somebody, some marketer promoting their content or something, but they have to let us know. So you'll always see that word sponsored underneath the video so that you don't get entrapped in something that you're not really interested in, because you know everybody can be creative in a good thumbnail or a good title. I mean, even in myself, being a YouTube creator, um, it was one of the first lessons that we learned, when we were posting our videos and doing our lives, is how important the thumbnails are. So I simplified my graphics on my thumbnail. I know it's important. So every night after my live show, I have a routine as I go in and I do the thumbnail, right? I only use the 3 colors, right? I use the burnt orange, I use the sky blue, and I use the powder blue, which is only one step down. It's still the same color choice, but it's just a lighter version of it. And my titles are normally just one word, my brand name, and the word podcast, only because I want the people out there who don't actually come into my live shows in the moment, right? I'm grateful for my little crew that come in and hang out with me. But on the norm, people come in and they watch it or listen to it on their way to work, on their way home, while they're doing chores or something. And it is made to be presentable that way, right? It's not a point list. And I guess that's part of the reason why I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the point list and in being so formal in my presentation. Because if you're at home and you're by yourself, right? Because my content is heavy, it's just not for everybody, right? It's for people who want to make a little bit of movement. And it's there to help people to recognize the going ons in their own environment, because that's usually where we get tripped up, is in our own environment and in our own relationships. So it's important that you're able to be relaxed in whatever you're doing, whether you're sitting out in the backyard, sun tanning, you're doing dishes, maybe, right? That you're just laying on the couch. This was a new experience for me this week, because I was out for the count. That pretty much all I could do was lay in bed all week. And I just let YouTube and Google make the choices for me. And oh my goodness, they did such a good job. I don't think Well, I wasn't zonked out, and it wasn't much in the way of me being zonked out. I was just basically really, really, really sore, and I just couldn't move. It was just too much to be up and about doing things, even just sitting in my chair. I mean, in the beginning of what happened to me, and if you missed out on that, I overdid it in my walks week before last, and it really threw me for a loop. I was kinked. I sat in with a gentleman who put out the perspective out there that these aches and pains is our debt. That's the word he used. He used debt, the things that we owe, and it's only an indication for us so that we know that there are things out there that we could rectify, do right by our wrongs because we all do wrong, right? Even if it's just to ourselves, right? If you're anything like me, I did that for decades, right? And I've always treated myself like my best friend because I was all I ever had. But in my physicality, and last week was a prime example in not taking care of myself, not taking care in respect to myself. I could have really done some damage. And maybe, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside because I wouldn't be able to explore the outside anymore. Oh yeah, it was something for sure. But I'm really, really grateful to be feeling 100 times better. And it was a big lesson for me. And, there were lots of lessons in the past week, like so many. Like last week was a really big week for me, all the way around. And I did it all broken. I did it all broken. And I came out the other end, you guys. I came out the other end. I'm not going to say not worse for wear, but I am going to say I'm going to give myself light duties for the next week and just take myself into consideration, right? When I leave my apartment, I'm going to think twice about taking my backpack, right? Even yesterday, when my sister came by with the Easter goodies, she dropped off Easter bag for my nephew, and she brought me a big Lindor Easter egg with all little eggs and stuff inside. Absolutely just so nice of her, right? But I had to use my dolly because I didn't want to be carrying any true weight, right? So I was taking care of myself. I was thinking about myself. And then today I thought, well, Cindy, you can go off for a little walk. You need to get some milk for tea. I mean, I've got enough for a couple of days. I'm perfectly fine. I was just looking for an excuse to get outside, right? And if I had a porch and somewheres, like I guess I could go up to the roof, but with all the moisture in the air right now, it's still pretty chilly. And being up on the roof, up on the 15th floor, it's going to be pretty windy to boot. So it wouldn't be like I would be able to spend any length of time up there. But any fresh air would be good fresh air. Oh my goodness, let me tell you something so amazing. It's been bothering me for a couple of months, maybe 3 months. It's been bothering me. A bag got blown into the elm tree in front of my apartment, and the windy days shredded it into little shreddy string pieces, right? But it was still entangled in the branches, but right in front of my window, where I look out my window and I want to enjoy my big picture window. I want to be able to see the snow melting and the people standing out in front of the building there, and I want to be able to see when the ambulances and the fire trucks pull up in front of the building, like so I can give some good cheer. Now I can send some good cheer just by hearing the alarm. But I think in my attention, it's a stronger connection for my wish for a little bit of good cheer for them. And out there, you guys, I'm sending you all good cheer. It isn't my intent. That's the whole point of my beginning of my lives each time, is to get that energy out there and give you guys a little bit of good cheer before we go into the topic of discussion. But back to this stringy Safeway bag that was all shredded up in the tree. It really bothered me, right? I'm really adamant about cleaning up garbage when I saw it. Like, even when I came back from the grocery store, because I had to get some milk, and I only wanted to take a little one because I didn't think I could manage it. I want to keep everything really light. And at that point, I was still aching a little bit, right? I took it easy. I managed perfectly fine. And every day it got a little bit better and a little bit better until today I woke up after a good 8 hours sleep right through. I don't even think I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom, which is the norm. I'm 65 years old. When you get to that when you get to that age, you know that your bladder is not going to last the full 8 hours. And because I'm drinking lots of water, and let's have a sip of my water. Oh, and I've got some Kool-Aid here. It's another thing I need to do is I need to get a case of water, but I wanted to wait until I was feeling a little bit better. Of course, I'm not going to carry it home, right? But I do have a granny wagon, and it can be dropped in the granny wagon, and the wheels will take a lot of the tension away. And I think I'm feeling good enough that a small excursion like that would be okay. I don't want to stop the new routine of water. Wow, what a benefit it was. Do you drink a lot of water, Tammy? Do you drink a lot of water? Yeah, it was just something. And I don't let the water stay in the fridge, right? I like my water at room temperature. And I didn't know because I didn't drink water, so I didn't recognize that I enjoyed it at room temperature. But it was something I noticed, in my working career. I worked with a lot of Filipinos, right? And I always noticed that they drank warm water, right? They drank room temperature water. They didn't like cold water. So when I worked cafeterias and stuff, I always left a case of bottled water sitting on the counter so that they knew that it was at room temperature for them. And they really, really appreciated that I did that. But I did ask them why they did that. And they said cold water shocks the inside system. And they don't believe that, water was meant to be drunk that way. Now, this is Filipinos, and they come from the Philippines where it's nice and warm, right? So room temperature water would probably feel quite cool to them. Excuse me, my nose is really itching. I'm just going to be doing like this. I don't know. There might be a hair that needs to be trimmed or something. You do, eh? 5 or to 7 bottles of water a day. I am up to 3 bottles of water a day. I probably will go up, once it start warming, even when I'm start getting out of that light duty mode, that I will be taking in more water because I have been feeling the benefits of it in my system tremendously. And I'm so grateful. I have no idea how that came across my path. That only happened when I went out for the count, right? And maybe it was because I didn't want to make a jug of Kool-Aid. It could have possibly been that. And opening up a bottle of water just seemed much more feasible, seeing I had a whole case of it that I wasn't drinking. I specifically bought a case of water so that I would drink more water, but it just sat there, right? But I have been drinking the water. And like I said, I have, oh, back to my story about the Safeway bag in the tree. So this shredded bag in the tree really, really bothered me because it ruins my feeling, right? Of how I feel about nature and I don't care for pollution, right? When I came back from the grocery store, that's why I trailed off. When I came back from the grocery store, because the snow had melted in front of the building, I could see all the garbage. So much garbage because there are benches in front of our building. Lots of homeless people. They were sleeping on them in the middle of the night, right? Hoping somebody would get into the building and at very least they could stand in a warm or sleep on the floor in the lobby or something. So they'd sleep on the benches until their opportunity to get into the building arrived, right? Because you're not going to mess with the homeless people, right? They can be very intimidating. I have worked with them when I worked at the thrift store. It was constant. But my persona, when in my responsibility of doing a good job, I was on them. But when I came home from the grocery store, I wanted to stop and pick up garbage, but I had to say no to myself. Cindy, today was your first time outside. If it's still there in a few days and you're feeling better, you can take a garbage bag with you. And I keep garbage bags in my backpack all the time, but I won't be carrying my backpack for at least another week for sure. No, I probably be limited in using my backpack again for a while. That was full of lessons. Just that's what I'll say for that week. That was full of lessons. And so I had to say no to myself. I had to say no to myself. I came in and just a couple of things, a loaf of bread and a quart of milk, and I was good. But now I'm running out again. I need another quart of milk. So if I go out, it's just going to be a quick run to the store and home I go again, right? But that will be my little bit of outing outside. So getting back to the shredded Safeway bag out in the tree, I I was sitting there and it's been like 3 months and it really makes me sad, right? Because it's right in front of my window, right at my eye level, too. All tangled up in the branches and everything. It's just shredded. They're like ribbons now, right? They're like ribbons, but they're so entangled in the branches, even the high wind is not blowing them away or anything, right? And so I was looking out my window and a crow flew to the tree and started poking at the little shredded pieces in the tree. And I thought that was so incredible that I caught that in that moment and I stood up and I watched him do it and I kept saying thank you to the crow. Oh, thank you. I was so happy. I found it so fascinating. And he got maybe 3 of them. And there were, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, half a dozen of them, right? And then he flew away. I went, oh, that was so awesome. I'm so happy. There's still a few there, but every time I look out the window now, I'll be so grateful for that experience of that crow pulling those things off the tree that these few that I see now will just remind me of that experience. I got up in the morning and 2 more of them were gone. I said, oh, that crow is making a nest, right? He's ready to have some babies or something, right? I said, thank you so much. And there was just one left, just one left. And I thought yesterday, at some point yesterday, this crow would come by and take it away. I kind of just threw it out there. Oh, come by and take that away. It would make me so happy, right? Because in another few weeks, the green will be coming into those trees and they'll kind of cover it up, and you won't see it, but I know it's there, right? So I'm sitting here this afternoon and that crow came back and he just flew to that tree and I just happened to look up again and there it was. And it pulled that string off like it was nothing, like it was a spaghetti noodle out of a bowl. And he just took it and he eyeballed another one, another little piece, like, but a knotted piece. It was nothing that was flying or anything, but it had twirled around in itself. It was like a little ball around the branch, but the branch was so skinny. And I said to the bird, don't even try. So I'll look tomorrow and see if that little ball is gone. But he stood there for 5 minutes with the string hanging from his mouth, and he really wanted that other piece too. And he would have gotten it. He would have untangled it and he would have flew off with it for sure. But the branch was too skinny. It wouldn't have held his weight while he was trying to untangle it. He would have had to fly and just kind of flap his wings on the spot just to make sure that it came out. But it made me so happy. It made me so happy. It makes all the difference in my mood, right? And I need those happy moments, don't I? Those little moments that make me feel good, that bring the joy into my life, not these flyaways. Look like Pippi Longstocking. I look like Pippi Longstockings with my little flyaways, right? It's funny. Let's see what's going on here. Hi, Eugene. I hope you're doing good tonight. I always find myself picking up trash too, wherever I go to, Cindy. It is springtime now. All the different birds will be making their nests and looking for things to make them. That's awesome, Cindy, that crow got your plastic out of your tree. That is great. It was great. It made me really happy in the moment. And, that's the small things at this time, right? I think for all of us, anybody that resonates with my content, it's important for us maybe not to totally stay out of the picture, but to spend more time with ourselves, not be so anxious to go about getting back to things 100 miles an hour and then being entrapped by somebody else's idea for what they think you should be doing. And because we're looking for direction, right? We're looking to be inspired, that, we are most likely prime candidates, right? Prime targets to be able to say, "Oh, okay, yes, I'm in," right? Because we're looking for that. We're looking for that little bit of follow me in the moment. But I think in this moment, we should be following me. We should be following ourselves. We should be taking care of ourselves, giving ourselves those little treats, giving ourselves that rest, letting ourselves be inspired by whatever comes across our path online, especially, right? Like I said, this week, I subscribed to two new content creators and very smart ones, psychologists, of course, right? But I subscribe to their channels and I've been delving into their content and I've really truly been resonating and seeing my own thoughts and ideas in their content and really being inspired that some of those ideas and some of those thoughts that I have, that I'm actually seeing it out there, right? And by people that I do know and people that I do appreciate, you know, uh, Teal Swan has always been, I very admire the woman because she goes to work and she takes a battering, and yet she is so adamant in her ideas of family and softness and partnership and coupling with our partners and family unit, right? And I believe in that too, right? But I thought these were ideas that I just had. I didn't think that others out there had these ideas, and especially someone like Teal Swan, who is so relevant in the thought leadership that I kind of run with. I run with a lot of thought leadership, that's for sure. And I don't think if they would intermingle quite well, but in an introduction, I think she would be absolutely amazing to sit in on. That, it's incredible. I truly believe that it takes all kinds to make the world. I am not big on judgment. When people hurt me, there's always lots of chances, right? Betrayal is a little bit harder to digest, but, in being able to feel out others, I can recognize a true apology. And the thing is, we don't do enough apologizing, right? We should apologize more than what we do because we make mistakes all the time. I'm Canadian. Right? They even had to put a law in place to make sure that people, when they were suing you, that they couldn't use the fact that you said sorry when you got in a car accident, because if you said sorry when you got in a car accident, it's kind of like saying I did it. But that's not the case. It's just our nature. It's just one of the beautiful things about Canadians, right? And we are the baby country, right? We are one of those baby countries. And it's like the youngest child. Like if anybody were to hurt Canada, oh my goodness, I think the whole world would come together to take out the perpetrator 100%. But it's not because we are so perfect. We make mistakes too, but we learn from our mistakes. But more important, because we are such a new country. Our country just celebrated, only a few years ago, our 150th anniversary. We're not very old in any way. And we have more land mass in comparison to population than probably any other country in the entire world. They say we have the same population as the state of California. Can you imagine? You could stick California in British Columbia and it wouldn't even make it a third of the way, maybe a third of the way, because each state is in small in comparison to our provinces. And yet we have the same amount of people, right, as the state of California. I find that to be super, super interesting. But we try to be the example, this country, right? And we don't only learn from our mistakes, we learn from the mistakes of other countries in setting up their countries and how they govern their countries and how they govern their people and stuff. So we can be vigilant in watching and learning through history how other countries made their movement. And then we were able to avoid the mishaps, right? The mistakes. When we first became a country, right off the hop, one of the very first things we did is we set up, because it had already been explored, the voyageurs and the fur traders had already mapped out the whole country, right? So they already knew where they were going to put the towns and the cities. They didn't have the provinces all cut up or anything. where I live now, it was actually called Rupert's Land. And Rupert's Land ran all the way across the border into North Dakota, right? I think a couple of the other states alongside it. And we were called Rupert's Land. But that was, right, in the very few colonies that were, they weren't settlers, they were actually the voyageurs. They were the Frenchmen and the Scottish men who settled and made homesteads with the indigenous women. They called them winter wives, right? Because after they did their time, if they decided not to stay uh, in Canada, it wasn't Canada at the time, if they didn't want to stay after they had finished their contract with the Hudson Bay Company or the Northwest Company, they would go back to their home countries and they would leave their winter wives, which were the indigenous women, and their children behind, right? What a sad thing, right? We are in the process. It's our evolution. We're doing a much better job at recognizing our mistakes and fixing some of our mistakes. Those children were actually considered the Métis, which were basically the French and the Indigenous. But in consideration, you got to give credit to the Scottish men too, and their relationships with the Indigenous too, right? And they actually fought for their rights and got their rights, right? And got their rights and recognition as their own race. Like, I think that is absolutely amazing. But that only became and was allowed because of, right, the recognition of where other countries got it right and got it wrong. So anything that we represent in being successful, in being good, or being admired, we have to give credit where credit is due. And that's the people who settled their own countries at one time. And through mistakes and giving up and trying again and then failing and then trying again and then failing and then standing up and brushing their knees off and trying again, that they succeeded, and we didn't have to go through as much of that because, right, we kind of got the gist of it through the examples before us, right? And that's the truth. But I tell you, if anybody laid a finger on us, they would jump in because we're like the youngest child, and you know the youngest child is the favorite child, right? So you don't mess with the favorite child. But at the same time, the favorite child's got to take into consideration they can't be schoolyard bullies either. They can't be kings of the castles. They can't be the authoritarian, you guys are underneath my thumb. They can't be the gatekeepers for anybody else except for themselves. It's I love history, you guys. I could talk about it, but it's interesting because I talk about it in layman terms because lots of people, they don't have the patience or maybe the capacity to read books or to immerse themselves in these topics. And when somebody talks about them and they use words that they've got to sit there with a dictionary with, and it's more like a chore, it's more like sitting in class, that they don't find it. They're not inspired to be interested in it themselves. And I think that's a little bit something special about how I present my content is that it is for the layman, right? It is for the people that possibly never got to be the person that they were meant to be, the person that they wanted to be. And it got to the point, it was the person that they never thought they could be. and being that person to just in my own conversation, in my own layman's way of expression, that people kind of go, oh, right, oh, right. And they can do that for themselves and delve into those topics themselves, recognizing it's just a matter of starting somewheres, right? It was like what I said with Carl Jung. His content's been suggested to me for years and years and years, right? And to me, it was like Chinese. I didn't understand any of it, but I tried to go in and I'd sit in something for like 2 minutes and oh, yeah, I don't get this. And I would be gone. I would be gone. But I tell you, I could sit here now and I can go into Carl Jung and I can be in there all day being enthralled, right? Being lessoned, being educated, and being able to understand things in a way that the person that I am in my own layman's understandings that I can express out there without having people out there going, oh my goodness, I need a dictionary to even understand what Cindy's saying. Yeah, you can pretty understand what I'm saying because these were my people, right? These were my communities. This is where I was brought up in. And this is where I was under the thumb and I was controlled and I was dictated to. So I was never allowed to excel in anything. And if they saw that there was any inching towards any of that, I would be squashed down and put back in my place and I would be right back where I was. Not to say that that was a bad place, because there were lessons in those experiences too. And there were some beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful souls, even souls that were worth and meant for so much more. And yet, just like me, they weren't allowed, right? Because every time that that enticement to move a little bit, right? They get squashed, and it's for some people getting squashed is super discouraging because it's meant to be discouraging. It's meant to make you want to quit, right? Bottle number. Oh, I'll have another bottle before I go to bed. Bottle number 2, done. All proud of myself. I'm back into water. I'm not coming off the water ever again. I'm going to be on the water, right? Some point I might stop drinking water so close to the time that is for me to go to bed. It felt really good last night just to have my first good night's sleep. And then, right? And then wake up, open my eyes, and I'm expecting to ache, right? Because I'm not sleeping properly. I'm sleeping on my shoulder. I've got my arm all kinked up in the pillows or my neck all kinked up, and there was nothing. And so I tried a little bit of movement, still nothing. Then I swung my legs over the bed and I rolled my shoulders a little bit, a little test. I went, oh, wow, what a good sleep I had. I had the most amazing sleep. It put a smile on my face right at the beginning of my day, right? It was just like the sun came into my life in immediate. Okay, you give me 1 second here. I need to take my sweater off. This is my favorite sweater. It's a handmade sweater. Um, and it's just so comfy and cozy. And when I get a little bit of a chill going on, it's one of the sweaters that I do like to wear. It's one of my favorite winter sweaters, but I did burn the sleeve when I was trying to pull something out of the oven one time. And so now it's basically my household sweater and my camping sweater. Okay. So let's get back into it today. We're going to pick a card. It's Monday. We're going to go into the week pretty early. I was looking at my notes here. The topics here are pretty heavy. I thought maybe there was a couple of things that we could go into as a topic, But if I just mentioned how important it is, not to rush into things, to make sure you're taking care of yourself, that you're taking your time, you're going slow, you can still make movement, you can still work on those projects. I thought tomorrow might be a good day for me to pull out the spring clothes, right? Switch my closet. It's going to be a big project because, right, my summer closet and my winter closet are pretty different. And then it's just making sure everything is washed, everything's folded, everything's put away properly, and it'll be an all day project, but that's a project I can do slowly, right? That I can get a little bit done and then go sit down for a little bit, get a little bit done, maybe walk to the grocery store, get some fresh air, get my quart of milk and my case of water, come back, and I'll probably sit down for a little while, only for the fact that going for the walk I think will exert me a little bit, even though I feel good, right? There's this cautiousness that I have because I don't want to ever have that experience like I had last week before. Oh my goodness. I would have taken care of myself. If I had to go to the doctors or the hospital, I would have. But I think I played nurse to myself pretty good. And I appreciate that everybody that hung out with me last week was so was so kind. I hope you had I hope you guys had a really good Easter too. Thank you, Eugene. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So what we're going to do tonight, maybe the word will dictate the topic for the whole week. Maybe we'll do something a little bit different. If we see the patterning like we did last week with that word companionship, that was a little crazy, then we're going to do it only because it's in the patterning that I actually understand that something needs to be covered. And because I come in, there isn't a topic of discussion, right? I let the moment take me, and it's those other parts of me taking the stage, right? It's those other parts of me. And Cindy, in her own layman kind of way, is just kind of flowing with that, hoping that those lessons will come forward, and they never fail. They always show up in such a beautiful way. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, I've been doing these lives for maybe a decade now, and it's never failed me. And I've always done it that way. And in fact, I did a point list a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, oh, we're going to try this, right? I got all the information here. We're just going to get right into the topic. And yeah, that didn't quite work out for me because that was Cindy taking the reins. And the whole point of my lives is to kind of step away in that, still be Cindy, but letting those other parts of me take the stage, right? Okay, you guys, let's grab a card here and we're just going to get into it for a few minutes, maybe an hour. You never know with the card. Sometimes I just go into it and that's where it takes us for a while. Okay, let's just give it a couple of shuffles here and then grab our card. I was so happy about that crow though. Maybe made my day to have that taken care of. We'll just take this card then. Truth. Oh my goodness. This is a good card because this word, not this word, but in the reference to one of the other words I've been into today, right? So the word we got today, thumbnail, the word we got today is truth. Truth. We all fail in ourselves and in others. The truth is in the intent. And you have, oh my goodness, was I in this for 2 days? It's just, it breaks my heart, right? I'm making movement and I'm feeling bad because I'm feeling like I'm leaving others behind. And I had to keep reminding myself that I can't help anybody until I help myself. And then, in keeping with what Earl said about talking to the angels, right? I spent a little bit of time expressing it, letting it be known out there that I was feeling bad about that. Right? My intent is like it's like a rescue mission, right? Right? This is how I feel sometimes about this. But I do feel bad because I can see people out there that aren't moving, right? They're perfectly content in where they are. And I have to keep reminding myself, right, that I only have control over my own actions. I don't have control over anybody else's actions, thoughts, emotions. I am grateful that I get company on occasion, right? Very grateful that I get company on occasion and, that I don't feel bad. And that's the thing about taken on a couple of new creators that I'm resonating with a little bit, or I find that they're contributing to my life in a way that makes me feel better about what I'm doing, right? That it's about taking care of myself, making sure that my cup is overflowing, that big beer mug, like I said, that froth coming over. That's what I divvy out to the world, right? But it doesn't make me feel any less bad, right? Because it is in my intent that we all get to move forward if we choose to, right? If we choose to. I can't make that choice for somebody else. And you can see what happens out in the world, even in this moment, when you make choices for others. We make choices for others, and they're bad choices, right? They traumatize. They traumatize, like that Epstein stuff going on. Like that stuff has got to end. This world that we're moving into, that we're evolving so that we can fit nicely and start over again, has got to heal in that. And we can't drag the trauma from one lifetime to the next. And because I really believe that we're in this stage where our evolution is about to move really, 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 it's already moving really, really, really fast, right? That we have to be able to consider the people that we might be leaving behind in that. And also to recognize, especially that some people, they don't have a choice in that they're just taken out of the picture right away. And you can see that a lot of this stuff is being taken care of. Who knows how it's being taken care of, but it's being taken care of. But I believe that nobody's getting away with anything. Nobody is. Maybe in that moment, only enough to stack up the evidence, right? So that there is a good example for others what you should or shouldn't be doing, right? Like I said, I woke up to these ideas, and, my whole life felt like I was a trail cam, right? I grew up as a truth teller, and I never ever felt, oh, the word truth, right? I woke up as a truth teller, and it never ever served me, right? I'd always get in trouble for that because nobody would take my side and my thoughts and my understandings and what I was having to voice, my own truth, right? And in that retribution of that, I always had to feel out the intent because lots of times people would just say, oh, Cindy, right? No, it's not a good time to talk about that right now. And sometimes it would just be like the side eyed expression on the face, Cindy, right? Then you knew. And then sometimes there would be nothing, right? You say what you had to say, and then you walk around a corner and something would pounce on you, right? And that is the truth, but you have to feel the intent always, right? because we all mess up. We all make mistakes. I feel that my father truly made some really bad mistakes, but I believe his father made some really bad mistakes. And I think his father after him, right? Made lots and lots, maybe even worse mistake, that our family was so full of trauma that we were just all clinging to whatever was dangling to survive. And sometimes, people do get sacrificed in that. I feel possibly that I was sacrificed in that. And I have to feel out the intent. And, in doing shadow work, right? And going back there and putting myself in other people's shoes and putting myself in other people's shoes as an adult myself with my own experiences, that it's easier for me to see the intent. It's easier for me to go back into those moments of my mother. And I say, my mother was just broken herself, and she was put in a situation where she just became a baby popper, and she didn't even like kids, right? That she felt that her dreams had been taken away. My mother wanted to be an artist. My mother was so beautiful. Both my parents, my dad was very handsome too, but my mother was very beautiful too, right? On the outside. But that's what life does to you when you have experiences. When you go through traumas, you're not the person that you're supposed to be. And you have to feel out the intent in that, right? You really do. And I did feel the intent, but that intent in going back and putting myself in her shoes was a lot of pain, a lot of trauma herself, right? And I have gone into those conversations before, and it is in my experiences that, I get to use those as my examples, right? But I have to say, my mother was an example of true brokenness. And so was my father. And in those things that fall from the sky that will save us in the moment, sometimes we only have a split second to decide whether or not to grab at that lifesaver. And sometimes out of necessity, and there was lots of necessities, right? Growing up in that dynamic household, that we did make bad choices, but not all those choices were through bad intent. Some of them were just survival mechanisms, and that's 100% the truth. Okay, everybody, Tammy, happy Easter to you, Eugene and Cindy, and to all here. I know it's a day later, but I still want to say all of Cindy's Prairie Dodgers subscribers, happy Easter. I'm going to talk about where I got the title of my brand, Prairie Dodgers. We'll do that tomorrow, Tammy. I don't know if you know how that name came about, but I'll tell you where that name came about tomorrow. It's a good lesson, too. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.